Shiny. Hey everybody, it's Coach Doug. I got Friday night COVID chat, and man, how privileged and how awesome is tonight's chat going to be? I have the CEO of the PGA of Canada right here on my COVID chats with Coach Doug, Kevin Thistle. He is an icon in this business, one of the most amazing men you'll ever meet. I like him to think that his personality is just unbelievable. And I cannot wait to have this wonderful chat with him. It's going to be a blast. Mox, how are you? Adam, Scotty, you know what, guys? Thanks for tuning in. This is going to be really cool. And here he comes. So I can't wait to have him come on. We're going to get him here. Here he comes. All right. It's pretty cool. This is, I think, his first IG Live. And without any further ado, here he is, the one and only Mr. CEO, Kevin Thistle.
Hey, Coach Doug, how are you, man? Thanks for having me on.
Man, how are you?
So good, so good. This is amazing with the technology now, and you know, I feel like I'm under house arrest. But besides that, between the live Instagrams and the Zoom, we're keeping busy, right? Which is great.
We are, and you know what? It's really like I've had so many really great chats with so many of my industry peers from across this globe, and the really cool part is we are all. It's challenging us, but it's challenging us to dig deep and be creative and different. And how can we really connect with our students, our members, our fellow peers, and just rally to really keep that support going. And I mean, hats off to you, my man. I mean, your hair is way better than mine. But huge shout out to you and your staff at the head office. You guys have been keeping us informed. You've been keeping us relevant. You've been keeping us like right in your forefront. And you know what? As the leader and the CEO, I wanted to say thank you from myself and my peers. You're doing a great job, and please don't stop.
Well, you know what it is? I mean, you know, I've been a golf pro for what? Longer than probably before you were born, actually. But oh yeah,
I'm not. But it's younger than you, man.
Oh, you look good. But it's one of those things where I'm telling you right now. It's like the staff, like we care about every members, and I think because I don't know, I'm a PGA of Canada member myself and a proud member. You know, I've been on the board. It's just, you know, we're brothers and sisters. I say that all the time, and you know, every day we wake up and say, what can we do for the membership? Because we're all going through tough times. Absolutely. We're all having to be innovative, you know, and it's like, what can we do every day? And I tell you, the staff's come up with some amazing ideas. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, it was so fun. I participated today in a World Golf Tour online golf you know, game. I mean, match. I mean, played St. Andrews under the PGA of Canada page clubhouse. Stunk. Oh my gosh, my putting was awful on that game, but that was so much fun. So, you know, it's really kind of cool because again, you know, like I see how much you guys are keeping us like, you know, informed and coming up with different ideas and using that technology. And you know what, keeping us like the webinars and the things that help us. You know, when this first broke, what I thought was really wild is you guys opened up that seminar to that woman who talked about, you know, how to deal with crisis.
Right. Yes.
400 people registered and basically crashed Zoom. Like, it was crazy.
Yeah, it's amazing. You know, it's Zoom told us we could have X amount of people. We had enough bandwidth, and all of a sudden, boom. That was the first one. It's always the way. And since then, they've been well attended. You know, boom, it crashed.
No, that's crazy. Well, listen, for those of you who don't know this guy, all right, for those of you somebody tuning in, a little history lesson on this guy, all right? So, you know, 30-year member plus of the PGA of Canada. You know, he has, I like to think that he really put his name out there and in the forefront, working for a gentleman up in Stouffville at Angus Glen. Angus Glen is kind of Kevin Thistle land, and Gordon Stollery was that man who kind of gave you to really sink your teeth in. And you went from there to Coppenwood, from Coppenwood out to Calgary, correct?
Yep.
And Calgary to the head office.
Yes, and did a little stint at the Toronto Hunt too, which I love. I was a GM at the Toronto Hunt, but absolutely love that spot.
That's right. Toronto Hunt, great place to have a beer after golf, looking over the cliffs. I mean, that place is awesome. One of my best friends from college is a member there. Heath Tomlinson, and you know, it's a great track as well, right? So
It's really good.
one of the things you're renowned for, and this is, I think, what is so amazing is you're so engaging. You're always, you know, talking to people, and you're forward thinking and leadership. And I have a really interesting story for that. Personally, so a really good friend of mine, he unfortunately lost his job at a golf course as the tournament coordinator, and he turned and called you guys at Angus, and the very next day he had an interview with you guys, and you didn't have anything, and you saw, you yourself and Alan, I think, saw the potential in this gentleman on what he could bring to Angus Glen, and it's been absolutely unbelievable ever since. And Rob Turnbull is
Great.
is an amazing man, and I tell you right now, that story of him going to Angus and just taking off, but he doesn't get that without you guys understanding what he could bring and the forward thinking there. And that's my memory of you, and of how forward thinking you are in this business. So when you got this job, okay, first of all, was it a little bit like, oh my gosh, what have I got myself into? Or was it like, yes?
No, it was more like yes, because I was out in Calgary, working with Barry Ellert, right, at the Windmill Group, and we were building a golf course with Phil Mickelson. And it hadn't quite finished yet. I actually thought I'd be in Calgary probably another 2 years, maybe a year and a half, 2 years. I was loving it. I was having a great time. Loved Alberta. You know, it's my second home now. And you know what? When this came open, I'm you know, I've been a general manager. I've been a president, a vice president. I've been whatever. It doesn't really matter. We do whatever in the golf business. But I've always been a pro. It doesn't matter what position I was always a pro. So, you know, when Gary Bernard, our leader, retired, I said, well, it's either I apply for the job now or I'll be dead, because the next person in, I'm not, you know, there's not going to be a chance. So I thought, you know what? It was one of those things where it was probably my dream job, to be honest, you know, and I had an aha moment, because I thought, working for your brothers and sisters, working for your friends, your best friends. And it's not like I'm working for my best friends and, oh, you can take 5 days off because we know each other. No. Every decision we make, where you go, you know what? I'm doing it for my brethren. It better be the right one.
Well, you know what? This is a really cool part that you just said this, because not unlike myself and my peers who are in the coaching business, who build relationships, and it's the same as the HPs and directors of golf who build those relationships with their clients and their members. Those relationships we build with our students, we, you know, right now, you know, it's keeping in contact with them. And I mean, when I reached out to you, you'd already said you had personally talked to over 300 members. We have 3,500, but for you to personally talk to over 300 members, that goes above and beyond. And it's just, this is the really cool part, because the role of the CEO for the PGA of Canada has changed tremendously over the last 10 years.
Right.
With your appointment, you know, you guys have already shown an amazing focus on the professionals, just as you just said there. You're thinking about your peers, the people that you've come along with, right? And it's amazing, because you can see it in how you guys are focusing on professional development. Why is this such a huge mandate for you?
You know what? In the old days, it used to be, it's like, hey, I'm a golf pro, hire me.
Yes.
Well, wait a second, I've got my card, hire me. Well, you know what?
Do you know who I am?
Exactly, right, yeah. And all of a sudden, I said to the board, I said, you know, don't even hire me if you're not going to let me make changes or think outside the box, sort of thing. And my big thing was return to relevance, right? You know, I want us to be relevant, right? And relevant everywhere we go, because what happens is, you know, the National Golf Course owners or Club Link or Golf Tech, doesn't matter who we're talking about, mom and pop, if they're going to hire a golf professional, the great thing about that is, you know what, we bring value. We do bring value, but we have to educate the members to be able to, you know, to market themselves and say, look, here's the value I bring to your organization, and actually monetize it. So that's our big focus, is to make sure that, show them we are the experts in the field, and this is what I'm going to do. So that's why education and professional development is number one right now.
Well, you know what? It's amazing. You know, getting to go to the national conference in Mississauga, and the great row of speakers, and Matt Allen. And I mean, I feel very privileged of the fact that I'm a facilitator with the PGA of Canada in the community golf coach program. And the really cool part about this whole thing is being able to just educate, like you said, us, our members, on how to be better professionals. I mean, having mentoring programs, having the ability to improve your business skills, online stuff. It's amazing on how it's changed in such a little bit of time. And I think it's a really great testament on recognizing what is the pro of the future going to look like. Right? Because the pro of the past, who's the guy who play, teach, smoke, and get home at like 8 o'clock at night or 9 o'clock at night, and then go back at 7 o'clock.
Hey, wait a second. My kids might be watching, don't you? That was me.
I'm not mentioning anything about tall Diet Coke somethings or other. Don't worry about it. Okay, that's all right. First, before we get into more, you messaged on my Instagram. I think we need everybody a little shout out of best wishes to Jacob Latham in Sunnybrook. Okay,
yeah,
man. You mentioned hockey player, going through a little bit of a tough time right now.
Yeah, huge golfer. He's actually a university student, and he's in quarantine, can't see his family and stuff, and just loves the game of golf. And thanks so much for doing that. Big shout out, because we all go through tough times in our life, and he's there by himself. And it's just, I think the golf community, I think on my Instagram and your Instagram, it has his Instagram URL. So please just, shout out and say, hi, how's he doing? Just check in with him. So it's, I think he'd enjoy a shout out. And I just thought that today was the day I wanted to really to do something and shout out for him. And this is a great vehicle. So thanks so much.
Everybody, if you follow me, go on my Instagram. There's a post there. You can see it. I've been Jacob Latham. Maybe give him a shout out of just say, hey Jacob, hope you're doing well and all the best. So we wish you the very best there, Jacob. All right. One of the really cool things is that when you got this role, you got actually a picture. You saw a picture I sent Kevin Purcell at the Ontario PGA of finding your way, a roadmap, your pathway. A player, a business owner, a coach, a retailer, a tournament coordinator, a GM, so many different roles of PGA members. Why do you feel the choice of specific pathways for professionals is so super important now? Because before, we have to wear 15 hats. Right? And it's becoming a lot more niche, where at the club, hey, let me get that merchandiser to help you pick out the right outfit. Hey, you know what? Go see our director of instruction. He can help you, right? Where that instructor is not putting in any shop hours. So how is this specialization becoming such an important role for the future?
It's huge, because we look to the past, and believe me, even today, a lot of our head professionals wear 15 different hats. We understand that. They do. But when I was a young man, I knew I wanted to be a general manager per se. And let's say, as a young man, you wanted to be the best golf instructor in the world. Mm-hmm. So why are both of us taking agronomy when, I need agronomy? Maybe you don't. But then why both of us taking kinesiology when I don't really think I do, but you do? So we were trying to be too many things to too many people. And the education is only as good as the focus. Because if you go to university and you want to be a doctor, but you take history classes, right, it's not going to cut it. So the fantastic thing is, if you go on our pathways and you see, a head professional, we are going to give you every opportunity to be the best head professional. If it's, teaching and coaching, we are going to give you every opportunity the best. We've got to focus on specialize, because we want you to excel in whatever field. And the great thing about the pathways, I say, let's say I wanted to be that teaching professional when I was 23 years old. And then I find a mentor, and he says, no, you would be a fantastic GM or head professional. Oh, I just get off the 401. Yeah. I get into a different lane, and now I'm on a different pathway, and it shows me my goal is at the end, and it shows me how to get there.
Well, the really cool thing you mentioned there, which people don't realize, and I'm so happy that I'm going to be part of this, is in the teaching and coaching side, I'm going to be one of those mentors that help with these young people to, that I get assigned, essentially, like I'm a caseworker.
Right. Yeah.
It's really kind of funny. It's like I'm like a probation officer. But no, it's really neat, because I already do that anyways. But the really cool part about it is it's so much more fulfilling when you're able to help point people in the right direction and
Right.
follow their dreams. And it's, invariably, we never had, I didn't realize until, 10 years ago that coaching is really where I should have been the whole time. I was on the same kind of trajectory as yourself with it.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Right. And it was like, in all honesty, I got fired, and lo and behold, took that for me to realize that I needed to be I never need to sit behind a desk ever again. Like standing on the range, throwing up all over everybody. That's exactly what I need to do.
Exactly. Yeah.
But not a lot of people have that ability to find somebody to help direct them. So I love this initiative because it really does, speak to the younger professionals nowadays who need a little bit more now.
Right.
Like, you think they need a little bit more now than they do, like they need a little bit faster than what we used to do where it took so much time? Absolutely.
And that's a great thing. You go at your own speed but when I was there, it was like 5 years. Year 1, do this.
Yes.
Wait. Year 2, do this. And we all graduated the same day after 5 exact years. Well, wait a second. If I want to fast track myself, or if I want to slow track myself, I work my own speed. And the great thing is we've had people do it in 2.5, 3 years, all of these courses. Because the great thing is you can go on a weekend or an evening and kick off a couple of these courses. And, it's like I've probably been on 7 webinars this week, right?
Right.
The thirst for knowledge never stops. So the great thing is it doesn't, some are financial, some are whatever. It doesn't have to always be in the teaching lane, but I'll tell you right now, you're going to learn something from somebody every time. And those lifelong learners are the ones, and the young ones, who want to do it now. They're just going to go get in and they'll never stop learning.
So one of the really cool things is you've always been learning, and you just said that, right? But probably one of your biggest learning curves was when you had your role at Angus Glen and you guys put on the Canadian Open.
Right.
That undertaking at a golf course that, was a public fee golf course and typically wasn't under the radar, so to speak, to be really a premium course for pros.
Right.
What was that experience like, and what were some of the things you learned there that maybe you kept with and still use to this day?
Well, the amazing thing is, when I got there and I was sort of the head pro director of golf / GM, I was 30 years old, and I thought I knew everything. I know everything. I came from Seton with the Muni. It's got hydro wires and it's got no irrigation system. I know all about golf. And the fantastic thing is, it's all about relationships first, and it's all about your people. Like when we had when we had the first RBC Canadian Open, we were doing $5 to $6 million in food and beverage. And my food and beverage manager during the Canadian Open week, I bet he had just turned, into the math real quick, 28, 29. Amazing. It's amazing how we probably had 300 staff, and I bet 200 were under 25 years old. It was amazing. It was the greatest staff. They worked so hard.
Sure.
And it's about your staff. I mean, there was no micromanaging. I knew that the 249th person would make the right decision.
Well, and you've had some great people come out of you've mentored a few really great young professionals, Dennis Firth, Jason Moxham. There's been some people that, you've had come through there that are, Willie Koopman's, worked with you forever.
Yeah.
And it's like, you got to see how it, to run a Canadian Open. I mean, the logistics and all that organization and the planning that goes into it is really amazing. And I mean, that must have helped you as you moved forward with how much you had to look forward in the future to be ready.
Oh, absolutely. It's about planning and stuff. We knew a couple of years before we were having it, and I still think that wasn't enough time to get ready for it, right? So all the meetings, all the planning, and the teamwork. It's really about teamwork because, we had, like back then, we had the Rich Morales and the Stevie Grasses, and even in the food and beverage side, we had Jason Berganza. These people have all gone on to fantastic things, of course, but they're young, enthusiastic. First of all, I think it's all about the personality. It's all about the relationships again. And one of those things, even now with the PGA Canada, what I took from Angus Glen is you've got to be looking a year or 2 or 3 or 4 years down the road. You've always got to look ahead of yourself. Stay in the now, but you better be looking a couple years down the road to see what the newest and greatest thing is.
Well, I'm sure a lot of us were looking down the road to this season. I mean, getting everything planned, clinics, tournaments. I mean, I was speaking to a colleague and they were telling me the course they were working at has canceled every single tournament until the end of July, which is equal to somewhere between $3 to $5 million in gross revenue.
Wow.
Like this. So COVID-19 has not just made our world stop. It's made the whole world stop. Right.
Yeah.
And so what have you and the board been discussing about what possibilities golf can look like when we get past this, when we're given kind of the green light?
Right. And that's the thing we've been working on since day one. And really NAGA, if I can say that, the We Are Golf, the, Golf Canada, PGA of Canada, the superintendents, the National Golf Course Owners, and the Club Managers Association, we work very closely together. And our number one mandate was, let's arm our personnel, our golf courses, our facilities with the proper tools when they do open. Because when we do open, there's a new normal. There is going to be the social distancing. There is going to be no rakes. I'm not saying forever, but in the early stages, because I think golf is a game that, because we can, I'm not preaching here.
No.
It can be played, 6 feet apart from each other. We do not, and it's one of very little sports where you don't touch the same ball, like in basketball or baseball. You do not. So in golf, you just have your own ball. So there's an advantage for us. But there's going to be a new normal, and we have to make sure that the golfing public, the members, and the facility operators themselves, they know what the government wants to see and what the health officials want to see. So that's what we've been working on since day one. And you see a lot of things like NGCUA from the U.S. had that park and play, loved it. We have a playbook we're working on right now in conjunction with NAGA. So those are the things that we're really working on.
Well, see, now that's some great news, because I know we're all sitting here. I talked to my peers, and we had a little Zoom call with about 14 coaches. What are you guys doing? And, what do you think? And I talked to some of my peers, and it's like, well, how are we going to be able to stand on a driving range, or how are we going to be able to teach someone, or how are we going to get people in, basically around the golf course? So, pardon me. So it's great to hear that these discussions are continuous, because,
yep.
I really think, and it was very interesting, very early on, like March break, I had 13 kids ready to go to Florida.
Right.
For the weekend, the March break, I pulled the chute, because the Thursday, it was wild. From the Thursday to the Friday, everything changed so much. Disney World closed. So it was like, okay, Disney World's closed, and it never closes, even for like tropical storms and hurricanes. You're like, okay, so this is really the real deal, right? So best thing I ever did was do that. But the one thing we did there were a couple golf courses open before they got shut down. And I actually went out and played with some of the kids, because but it was very interesting. Just to your point, no one touched anybody. No one touched anybody's ball. The flag stick stayed in. I mean, it was really an amazing point. But then I was talking to my cousin Ann, and she says to me, some of the things that we take for granted, we have to rethink the norm, such as, when do you ever grab your client's golf club to demonstrate something? All the time. Right? So, I mean, that's just from the teaching side of things. But I mean, for operations, right? For the pro shop, for how you get people around the course, how they, it's just such an arduous task. So I really thank you for explaining that, because I really think that we need to understand that, look, you have our best interest, and not just the members of the clubs, the people who are the superintendents, the owners, and everybody. It's all under one dome. Just like Doug Ford and just like Trudeau, they all think about every Canadian. You guys are thinking about all this golf community, because it's so super important. So thank you for that. All right. This is one of my favorite areas of my COVID chats. Fast 5 questions. All right. You don't know what's coming. I've been doing digging up a little bit. All right. Scotty Cameron, Odyssey 2 ball, ping answer, bullseye, Acushnet bullseye.
Bullseye.
Why?
Clayton Carey, my first boss at Seton Golf Club, the pro there, gave me my bullseye when I was about 15 or 16. I still have it, still use it, of course. And if you see on the top, he actually hacksawed where he found the sweet spot. Because back in the day, very scientific, we used to put a T on in the middle of the putter to find the sweet spot, and he carved it, and I still use it. And
Really?
oh yeah, you asked Ian Leggett and Mike Rowan if we play the Cradle in Pinehurst or anywhere, 65, 70 yards in, it's my go-to club. That's the great.
Yeah.
I go 50
Paul Doucette says it's because you're old.
Tell Deuce, come on. I used to actually be able to chip. Now I can't chip, so I putt from everywhere.
There you go. Hey, I'll give you a lesson. No worries.
That's right.
All right. So we've all heard of, like, you know, the 3-wedge system. We've heard of, like, the 4-wedge system. All right. But I discovered the Kevin Thistle 7-wedge system, which is 52, 56, 58, 60, 62, 64, and a 60-degree left-handed.
Yeah, I think I have 7, and I don't have 62, 64, but I got the 60, 64, and I do have the left-handed 60-degree. Yeah.
That could be game changer. 7-wedge system, Mr. Thistle. Come on, please explain.
Short game specialist. You know, one of those things where ever since I was a kid, I putted left-handed.
Yeah.
And I shoot right-handed. And it's one of those things where when I get in the game, I feel that, like, left-handed, because I do the supination, whatever that word is, Ben Hogan said, right? I feel I'm the greatest putter in the world, or one of them. So I feel I should be able to bump and run left-handed.
Well, I'm a lefty, but I putt right-handed.
Ah, nice.
So there you go, right? Exactly. Yeah. That's kind of crazy. Okay. Preference here. Appetizers, main course.
Please. 47 appetizers all day, every day. 47.
You'll buy every appetizer on the menu. Forget every. Why?
Need a main course. Did you just say why?
Yes.
Why? Because I don't know. I'm very social, and all the guys from Angus, we'd go out and we'd do wherever any golf course I was, and I usually like to try to treat. And I say, okay, I'll take care of the menu, and I just go down the appetizer and usually order 2 of that, 3 of that, 4 of that, 5 of that, 7 of that. Just keep them coming, and then by the time it's over, there's no main courses needed.
There you go. That's you know what? Somebody should adopt that theory. That's a great theory. I love it. All right, so this is something my last 2 questions are really great ones. I really like to know what these are. All right, so who is Kevin Thistle's hero or heroes?
Well, in sports, it's Grant Mulvey, Chicago Blackhawks. No one's ever heard of him. Number 22.
Why?
Awesome. When I was young, he was leading the Central Hockey League in scoring as a young man, and they got drafted by the Blackhawks, who happened to be my favorite team at the time. So the two were married, and everyone says, "Who's Grant Mulvey?" Grant Mulvey scored 40 goals one year, and people give me a hard time. And if you saw Grant Mulvey tomorrow, you go up to him and say, "Hey, I know this guy in Toronto is your biggest fan." He goes, "Oh, I know." I got the sweaters, I got his puck, and the funniest thing is, in YPO, I was in that Young Presidents organization. One of the guys in my groups works with him.
No.
He would call him, and I said, "Oh my God, Grant Mulvey." I think they're Merrill Lynch or something. I go, "Grant Mulvey?" So that's my hero. And also Clayton Carey, who was my first boss, and my golf guys. I mean, come on, like Dick Grimm was nice to me when I was a 21-year-old snotty-nosed kid at a Muni. Dick Grimm. Wilson Patterson, and then my favorite stories were you'd have and I don't want to take long, but
no, we got time. Go ahead.
This was amazing. So here I am. So the junior pro assistant, the head pro and the assistant pro, and then there was a senior junior. So mine was Bill Walsh from Thornhill. That was my partner. And we would always play with, and there was a group. There was Ron Rayner, Summit. There was Warren Crosby, Mr. Porter from Rosedale,
Porter.
And Porter. And then there'd be, say, York Downs, maybe Bruce McCarroll back in the day. So after that, there'd be 6 of us would go to dinner, either with wives, girlfriends, whatever. And I was very young, and they called me Scarf. So the head golf pro from Rosedale, Bayview, Thornhill, Summit, York Downs, and then the assistant pro from Seton, which was a $20 greens fee. And I'm like, which one doesn't belong? And you got to ask Warren Crosby. My initiation at, I believe it was, is it Lake St. George up in Aurelia, the golf course, right? I had to bring a picnic for everyone. That was my initiation. I had to bring a picnic. So I went to a restaurant and bought a little, the red and white checkered tablecloth. Yep. I put wine in. I had cheese. I had prosciutto. I had figs. I had everything on the power cart. and ask Warren Crosby, anyone ever see him, they took me through the.
I'm gonna ask the Cross the next time I see him. Hey, listen, I hear you like picnics. That's what a great story. That's too funny. All right. So this often is a hard one, but let's see. All right. So who plays the lead role in the movie of Kevin Thistle?
Oh my. Ugh. Mike Modano, Dallas Stars.
Nice. That's pretty good. I didn't know he backed, but that's pretty good. I like that. I was gonna say maybe Tim Robbins. He might be good. There you go. Little hurry up living or hurry up dying. All right.
Right.
Oh my gosh, that's too funny. All right. So little surprise question here, but it's not really a surprise. But I mentioned him a little earlier. Gordon Stollery, I really honestly and truly believe he was a visionary, an icon, and had a profound influence on your life, your career, and shaping you into the leader you are today. What lessons did that man teach you about business and leadership that you use now?
Yeah. You know what the great thing is, too, and a lot of people don't know this, and I'll get back to it. His father actually hired me.
Really?
See, Angus Glen opened in 1995. I was hired in 1993. And unfortunately, Mr. Arthur Stollery passed away in 1994.
Okay.
So, of course. And then, of course, Gordon Stollery and his sister, Lori McLaughlin Stollery, who was amazing also. So I worked for both of them.
Okay. Yeah.
But Gordon was just, you know what, the greatest thing about Gordon, the greatest thing was he was, you know, a very wealthy man. It doesn't matter if you're wealthy or not. I'm just trying to set the stage that when he walked in, everyone knew him. Everyone knew him from, you know, he owned oil companies, etc. But when he came to Angus Glen or anywhere, he wasn't looking for the head pro. He wasn't looking for the president or the CA. Always went back and talked to the dishwasher. Right. Always went down. Always went into the cart barn and checked out with the cart attendants. Like he would go in and say the sous chef, you know, cutting onions. He wasn't the person who was going to the front and going, oh, I should talk to the general manager today. He was always looking for that person who was back in the corner, maybe by themselves, to say, hey, how you doing? Thanks for your job. You're doing a great job. And, you know, what are you doing here? And tell me how you do it. He was always learning and always asking questions, but everyone was amazed that it didn't matter who you were and what job you did. He was interested in what you were doing. I mean that sincerely.
So you can say that is something you definitely took and ran with, because if there's anything I've watched you work a room, and you are always like shaking hands, kissing babies, and getting in front of everybody to, you know, really, really make sure they know you're noticing them. And why is that such a talent? Why should more head pros, GMs, those people who may be watching, why should people do that more often? What is the benefit?
Yeah, and I don't even know if it's a talent, because it's innate. And some people might have to work at it, but believe me, I just love people. I want to, if there's 100 people in that room, I want to talk to all of them. And it's not, I'm not sucking up to them. I'm really not. But the reason they should be doing it, and I did it as a young kid, innately through every job I ever had, because you get noticed. Like when Angus Glen, you know, I'm a Seton Golf Club. Like I said, it's a $20 greens fee. Yeah. When Angus Glen needed a head pro, I get a call. And they go, do you want to be the head pro at Angus Glen? I'm like, Angus Glen? I mean, come on, I'm at Seton. How good can this Angus Glen be? Remember, this is 2 years before it's open, right?
Right.
People, you know, if you're good to people and you show people that you care, someone's going to say, you never know when that person you're meeting, you could be meeting someone from Vancouver. Hi, how are you? You're good to them. Then the head pro job comes up at a Vancouver golf course and says, you know what, I met this person in Montreal or in Saskatchewan, and they'd be a good fit for your business. You know what? You're going to impress people. You never know the person you're talking to and their connections. And you don't do it for that reason, but that's the greatest thing. In my life, I can tell you 1,000 times where a year later someone says, do you remember that day in Etobicoke? And I go, yeah, I said hi to that person. Well, that person did this in Winnipeg. It's amazing how small a world it is.
You know what? I couldn't agree with you more. It's often that those little relationships that you build, you know, and it's connecting those dots, because it's often somebody says to me, will call me and say, hey, do you know such and such? And I'd be like, yeah, I know them. You want me to give them a call? And, you know, like it's really about that networking. And I really think that in this electronic world, that the younger professional needs to have a better understanding on how to win friends and influence others, people, right? So, I mean, like,
Right.
if you think about it, if they did Toastmasters, if they did some things to help themselves get better in terms of how they can communicate with people face to face, because they all do it on the electronic world, what are your top 3 things that you would tell a young professional or a young person in general that they can do to help them be better in their business?
The first thing I would say, because, you know, I used to love, and I still do, you know, speaking to the kids at Humber College or Georgian College or wherever, and I do not miss an opportunity to talk to the young people, because you know, they're our future, and I love them. The number one thing I always say is, you know, get involved. Just get involved. Like when I was young, like Ian Webb, God rest his soul, of course, I met Ian Webb at, you know, the Ontario Assistants. I volunteered. I was probably 21 or 22 years old, and all of a sudden I became captain of the Ontario Assistants for the PGA of Ontario, and then the president. And you just get involved. And I'll tell you, when I was young, I would always go with my greenskeepers to the greenskeepers convention, or I'd go with my food and beverage person to the food and beverage, the Cisco shows. Because you know what? When you're going to these shows, it shows, because especially the greenskeeper show, a lot of the sales reps or companies sell to the golf professionals, and they also sell to the super. So if you're seen there, they're like, hey, you're the only golf pro here today. Well, I'm interested, you know? So get involved, you know, go to as many seminars as you can, go to as many conventions, conferences, whatever. As much as you can, get involved. That's my number one thing. I think number 2 is, and I hate to say it's like treat people the way we want to be treated. We know the famous sayings, but it's not that. Don't even treat people the way they want to be treated. Treat people the way that they should be treated. Treat them, you know, kill them with kindness. I mean, in my life, I can remember so many stories where someone comes in, well, that guy, he was, you know, staff. That guy was grumpy. That guy, you know what? Kill him with kindness. Just kill him. And the third thing is, and this could be number 1 also, never say no. Never, ever, ever. Because any staff I've ever said, they're not allowed to say no. They cannot say no. Because
wow, that's profound.
And that's
because so many people want to say no right off the bat, right? Because they're be scared. They're not really. It's like their initial thought is no, right?
I could give you an hour dissertation. Like there's certain things like I remember at Angus Glen say the Rick Nash tournament. And Rich Morrell's going to laugh because he tells this story. I forgot about it. He told me this last week. And so the Rick Nash tournament's there, and someone comes up to me and goes, Kev, we got a 120-person shotgun. I need 120 TVs. Do you sell TVs? Go, we're a pro shop. Of course we sell TVs. What are you, silly? And all of a sudden, then you go in the room and go, uh-oh, how am I going to do this, right?
Right.
And the next year, of course, was we need 120 DVD players. Do you sell them? We're a pro shop. Of course we sell them.
Of course we sell them.
But the great thing about that is I have so many stories where I would have a 15-year-old person come up to me and go, I just told someone on the 3rd hole that I would change their flight for them. I don't know how to do that. Great. You didn't say no, did you? And the next week it'd be, oh, I just told someone on the 7th hole that I would get them Maple Leaf tickets for tonight. Good for you. You didn't say no, did you? Because how easy is it for a staff member to say, can you change my flight? No. Can you get Leaf tickets for tonight? No. There's always a way. You may have to go and say, I couldn't quite do it, but never know.
That's awesome. My gosh. I hope everybody's watching is taking notes. Don't say no. All right.
Never, no, loud. I'd love to talk an hour about that.
That is amazing. That is really cool. So what advice do you pass on to your 2 boys in this kind of crazy time for them to not feel so, say, freaky? Because you're pretty busy in terms of people trying to get at you. And what's your communication with them to keep them kind of chilling? Yeah,
I think chilling. I think it's I'm lucky. 2 boys, blessed. They're beautiful boys, and I always stay connected. You know, even if you're in lockdown, whatever, stay connected with your buddies. I don't care if it's on the phone, on you're playing video games, whatever. And also just be kind. Be kind to everybody. You know, and that's one thing that that I'm so excited about my kids, even when they're 6 years old. If there was someone, a homeless person, they would say, "Daddy, do you have a loonie?" or "Daddy, do you have a quarter?" And they would run over. And that's the rule. That's the rule. You can't walk by a homeless person and not put, I don't care if it's 10 cents in the pot. You can't. And that's one thing. There's kind souls, and that's the one thing I tell them. And it's funny for me to see wherever we go, they still do those sort of things, and I'm so happy. And someone said, "Well, they're just going to buy drugs with it." You know what? Here's another thing. Walk them on their shoes. I don't know. That person could be a doctor. How do we know? And this is before mental illness was a big thing. I'd always say, by the grace of God, that could be us. That could be me there, right? So, just be kind.
That's amazing. That's such amazing advice. I think often at times, I really and truly think that being kind to people, right, is something that is kind of a little out of dated. We are always in such a rush, and sometimes you don't know what is the reason why they're there, right? But if you have an opportunity to help them at this moment, like I know that when I pull up to a light sometimes and there's someone there, right? Hey, you know what? Maybe they're if they're there for their own reason, and it's good or bad. Look, we don't own the reason they're there, but we can help them at least. And you know what? What's a loony to us, right? It might be huge to them.
Yep.
Right? So it's really kind of neat. Ryan Robillard, here he goes. He goes, "Kevin Thistle's getting me all fired up on a Friday night."
Ryan. Hey, Ryan, boy.
That's great, Ryan. I hope that's really awesome. So listen, I've been chatting with a lot of my industry peers, and I've had them on. I've had some really great people on my Instagram lives.
Yeah, you have. Good for you. Yep.
Right? And it's like we've all had these WTF moments where it's like we kind of go, whoa, right? And it's like the best part about this that I think is coming out of here, and is a testament to this, is that we are lifting each other up in different ways. Whether it's collaborating, I'm collaborating with 3 pros, one in Texas, one in New Jersey, and one in Florida, because they're buddies of mine that I've become such good friends with through the PGA show and US Kids and all that stuff. And it's like I'm helping them get through some tough times. And it's like, what do you think as a professional, what can we do for others in our profession that we know? What are some of the things that we can do? Because you've talked to like 300 people. I try to talk as many as people because I'm a pretty social guy. But what do you think we can do more of?
I think we have to reach out to our fellow pros, our fellow golfers. There's a lot of people who are home alone, right? And they're not getting out. And you never know. Some people, they react differently. Like I check in with the staff every so often too. And I check in with my buddies, and I check in with my parents, whatever. And I think it's just reach out. Like, we want to stay connected. And you talk about collaboration too. The great thing that I'm seeing come out of this is that, like, I was on a call with the PGA of Manitoba the other morning, but it was their, if I can call it, it was their NAGA partners. And then yesterday morning, I talked to the guys from Saskatchewan. And I believe it was yesterday or Wednesday was the first time ever that, I'll call it, the NAGA partners got together in the same space on Zoom in history. So, yeah. So the great thing is the WTF moments like you're talking about, it's amazing. And that's one thing, I hate to say it, but I said, if I can't collaborate with the zones when I get, if I was elected, or picked to be the CEO, I said, once again, don't hire me, because I love everyone. I hug everyone. It's like hug your customers. Right? You just hug everybody.
You can't hug anymore. No,
exactly. Oh, I got to come up with a new phrase. You're right. But hug your customers, hug your enemies, hug your brethren. So it's like, that's the great thing about this moment is that somewhere like Saskatchewan, Manitoba, whatever, who maybe haven't had that connection with the other associations, will be going forward. And the associations you have and the relationships I'm getting over Zoom, like, I love the PGA of Ontario is doing a fantastic thing, with their regional sort of directors. They have their regional lead. And I've tried to be on every call, not every call, but just to say hi. And wow, was that?
I said, yes, no, you're right. It's
yep.
Just hi. It's
right.
You're right. Because it's like, so often we think, all right, everybody's going to want to go to this, hey, if we have a group Zoom thing, how many people are actually going to call in on it, right? And it's like, we really, if we divide it and conquer, we have more opportunity to hit more people, because when we divide areas, we can now reach out, right? If Dustin has Central Toronto, right, he only has a certain amount of people that he needs to get a hold of, and it takes his time is a lot less, right? And he may have more relationships with those people in his area. It's the same as in Niagara, right? With Bob Kulig. Bob's such a wonderful, kind man, and everybody knows Bob. So, you know, it's like Bob reaching out to everybody just to check in. What a wonderful thing to do, right? So Melanie Vanderhoop at the Ontario PGA. I mean, great young woman, really cool, really happy for her to get the executive director job. I think that she, being new to golf, is actually bring some really cool strategies to this. And that brings me into some other questions for you with regards to the national office. So last night I had Derek Ingram on.
Love that guy. Love him.
A little bit about long-term player development and how that's helped shape the players that we see now coming up, right? Because we have way more Canadians in every facet across the world in professional and collegiate golf. So one of the things I was thinking about is, like, what is the future looking like at the national office beyond? Because I'm going to think about, like you're doing with you're planning a PGA Tour event 2 years down the road, 5 years down the road. What is it looking like, Kev, for the PGA, and what's your crystal ball telling you?
At the national office?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, we've got so many great young people there. You mentioned Matt Allen before. Mm-hmm. So I'm there about a year, and I'm like, whoa, this guy's dialed in, you know, sort of manager of education. So I have this whiteboard in my office, and I just doodle and put some stuff up and stuff. And I had something like, I don't know, it was a funny title. I finally came up with something, and we made him, about a year and a half ago now, Chief Innovation Officer.
Right.
So he's our Chief Innovation Officer, and very proud, because about 8 months later, the PGA of America, they assigned a Chief Innovation Officer. So I thought that was cool. But like, we're always looking, always thinking, and with the office, like, we're just pushing them. Every time we have a little video, it's like think different. You know, I think Steve Jobs, Apple stole that off me, but still, think different.
Oh,
so I think, absolutely. So I think in the next couple of years, you're going to see a lot of great things. Like, you know, we've changed the PATs this year. This benevolent fund is coming down the road. I'm going to cry when I talk about that, because, you know, 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, I remember there was a PGA Pro in need, and we're kind of like, well, we almost said no. You know what I mean? It's almost like you can't say no.
Can't say no.
Right. So now we have this benevolent fund where the PGA pros, you know, and I don't care if they had to retire or had to quit because they couldn't afford to be. If they have an illness, or they have a real addiction, or their child needs an X-ray in Buffalo or something, you know, we're going to pay for it. You know, we've got to be here for our members, and there's nothing. I think that's going to be a big thing when we roll that out, and I'm so excited about that.
That is amazing. You know, it's often the great debate, right, is always, what are my dues paid for, right? I mean, you get that across the board. It drives me insane, because I am so very, you know, I came into golf very late. I came into golf at 21. I was a basketball player, picked up a game on a date with my wife, and it was like, wow, this is pretty good. My cousin Steve was the education director at the PGA of Canada at the time. And he was like, hey, maybe you might want to look into golf. It's kind of fun, right? And then he moves out to BC for the executive director job and all that stuff.
Steve Carroll.
Yeah, Steve Carroll.
Love Steve Carroll. Great guy. Great.
Yeah, he's my first cousin.
Wow.
You didn't know that?
Did not know that.
There you go. Steve is my first cousin. His dad and my mom were brother and sister. So it was really cool, because he gave me his set of golf clubs, and it was like, hey, this is kind of fun. And it was like, I got working at the Board of Trade for Michael Sherman, and that crew of guys that I worked with, I mean, there's a whole slew of us that are still pros to this day. And the really interesting part is, you know, cutting my teeth there, it really got me to understand that, wow, I'm a member of something. I am a PGA professional. And you know what? A lot of people sit there and will, you know, say, what the F am I getting for these dues? Right? Because it's like, oh yeah, I play in, now they're asking for way more money.
Right.
This benevolent fund and the support we get, most people don't realize. And here's a great story. Scott Couch told me a story. in now North Carolina doing a Scott Couch certification.
Yeah.
20 minutes into his presentation, he's outside. He takes a backswing and dings a $6,000 indoor-outdoor 60-inch TV. Wrecks it. It's a week old, but his insurance with the Canada covered him.
Yep. And
a lot of times people don't realize in our association what we get, and I really think that education is something that I think would be huge, because we get a lot less of people going, oh, I can't afford this, or really, why am I bothering? What am I getting out of it? Well, you get a lot.
Yeah, and that's the thing where we're starting these things like, did you know, right? Did you know? Because each member of the PGA of Canada, each member, not combined, each person has $5 million in liability. $5 million. So every time you as long as you're in the golf business, you're not, NASCAR racing.
Yes.
So Scott Coach is a good example. Every time, $5 million liability if you're teaching a lesson or a clinic or whatever sort of things, and it's a lot of these things. And you talked about, I picked up on something when you said, I passed my playing ability test, and then of course you're asking for more money. Well, now we absolutely, in the last year and a half, education has been cut in half by 50%. It's half price. PATs are cheaper. Dues have not gone up in 2 years, because even when I was on the board for years, I kept saying, why are we building our association on the backs of the young? Tax me. Tax Ian Krebin, tax whoever. Why are we tax?
You can probably pay for most of us. That's okay.
Tax Ian Krebin for 3 of us. You're right.
Okay.
But it's one of those things where the young, I'm like when I was at Seton, and that's why when someone will ask me a question, I'll go, do they need help with their dues? I go, well, you know what? 30 years ago, I needed help with my dues. Do not kid yourself, So it's one of those things. That's why in 2 years we haven't raised the dues, and we're trying to bring in more services, because what we're doing, we're running like a business. You look at, we've cut down on travel expenses. We cut down on I don't have to go into it, but it's so many expenses because it's about the member. And I think it's about the young member. We can't price ourselves out of the market.
Right. And this is and I'm glad you expanded on that, because these are the things that I really think people need to realize about what it is about being a member of the PGA Canada. One, the head office cares. We care. We want you to be the best professional you can possibly be, right?
Right.
We want to be the very best coaches you could possibly be. We want to be the very best version of you. And the really great part about this is your leadership has allowed us, and it's very evident. And I'm not downplaying, because my cousin Steve was there, Gary was there. I love Gary. I love Steve.
I love them all, yeah.
Right. But it's about the succession. It's about the rise and the continued trajectory that we need to have for this future, which is going to be in golf. And it's going to be really cool to see how this progresses. So I have one more question for you, and you need to finish this sentence. Okay. An Oldsmobile Tornado is...
Oh my God, we used to call it it was like the black Porsche, right? It's a Ferrari to me. It was a 1992 Tornado that an old lady only drove on Sundays.
Oh man, that is so funny. How long did you drive that for?
Probably about 3-4 years. And it's funny. So I bought it for $2,000. It had 27,000 miles on it. And one of my favorite stories is it was probably 2002 or 2003, during sort of the RBC Canadian Open days. And one of my staff would say, hey, look, it's got Corinthian leather. And look, it has
leather.
It has a GPS system that looks like a Pong game. Remember the old Pong game, right? And one of the staff said, yeah, Mr. Thistle, in 1990, you would have been cool. Oh, okay. So, yeah.
That is absolutely fantastic. So, all right. 2 more things. Bradley Ryle says, is there any way you can educate the owners, National Golf Course Owners Association, about our insurance and how that could help coaches for when they think that, you need, whether or not they know that we have insurance and how it works. So there's something that maybe I would ask Brad to follow up with you
And and then let me tell Brad too. Hey, Brad, how you doing? Thanks for watching. Thanks for the question. Real quick, Matt and I got in and we saw the national board for the NGCUA for the first time in our history, also, and it's great because we are educating them. We have a new education person, and it's because the NGCUA and Michael Sherman actually why we have this program going. So we are educating them, and they want us to educate. So great question, and that's happening. Good question.
That's great, Kev. Last thing, Deuce says something about the fiber speed days, and he wants you to explain fiber speed and how it affected your game.
Well, fiber speed, because I was making probably $3 an hour. It was very. We had a little company, Wilson Patterson from, of course, Royal Ashburn and Clayton Carey and Ron Morris. We had this fiber speed. It's like a whippy shaft. It was a whippy shaft.
Very whippy.
Yeah. So we had the rights, and no one ever made fun of it, of course, until I made a hole-in-one in a par 4 with it, Deuce. So yeah.
There you go, Deuce, right back in your face.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Well, listen, Kev, an hour flies by like a heartbeat. Like,
wow.
I know, right? It's so funny. I mean, you're about the only other guy that would talk more than me in an interview, and I was kind of thinking I didn't have to talk too much. But listen, honestly and truly, thank you so very much for coming on tonight, taking the time, this hour, helping everybody that tuned in understand how awesome and how amazing the PGA of Canada is doing for us in this crazy time, and that we are in really good hands, and that the future is very bright for all of us who are members, and that we should be very proud and feel very confident that the PGA of Canada is going to have our backs for years to come. So thank you so very much for myself and everybody who tuned in tonight.
It's a great time. Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.